or hurt. Great feeling. Oh, I need to get another drink. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year! This is my first video of 2022, so I want to start as a little different by sharing with you guys a little more detail about me and my sewing journey. So I hope this video will bring us closer to each other and give you some inspiration for your sewing. And I also will have a little special message in the end of this video, so I hope you guys will stay with me to the end. Before answering any of your questions, I just want to tell you guys that I am kind of like the person who really loves organizing. So I will putting all of your questions into the list, then I separate the list into the different sections. So I will answer your questions section by section. I think this will be the better way for me to gather on the question and I won't miss any of your questions. Also will help you guys understand me better. You also can skip some part of this Q&A video if you don't want to know and just jump right into the section that you want to know. The first section is my personal information. You guys all know that my name is Jess, but Jess is just my English name. I chose it, so it's not my real name. My real Vietnamese name is Oanh, O-A-N-H. And according to the Vietnamese cultures, every single name has a meaning. My parents told me that my name is the same with a beautiful bird, so they were hoping I will turn out as a beautiful girl. I hope I turn out pretty good, I hope. I'm 32 years old. I was born on May 11, 1990, and I'm a Taurus. I was born in a small town in central Vietnam, so I'm Vietnamese 100%. I have been living in Ho Chi Minh City for over the past 10 years since university, but recently I just moved to Thailand with my partner for his work. However, we won't stay here for long, we will come back to Vietnam. Lots of you ask me, is sewing my main job or do I have another job? Yes, I do have another job. When I just started my channel, I have a 9-to-5 job. I used to work in marketing for a fitness company before. But when the pandemic came, it affected my work quite a bit. Even I still can work at home, but the effective of my work getting lower than before. At that time, I was thinking of changing my job, and around the end of 2020, I decided to quit my job to work online. So currently, I spend 50% of my time working online for a media company and other 50% of my time working for the YouTube channel. If you follow me for a while, you will know that I'm engaged and we plan to have the wedding this year, so I'm quite busy at the time to prepare for the wedding. And because I used to work in events management, I also work at a freelancer wedding planner. So I want to organize my wedding myself, of course with some help of my friends. And when it comes to the wedding, a lot of you guys have asked me the question, will I make my wedding dress? I'm not sure about it, but I think I will. So we will see. It's my partner, his name is Lachlan. He works online, so when he know I want to find an online work, he's encouraged me to try YouTube. And he's the most supportive person since I started my YouTube channel until now. It didn't mean that I don't know about YouTube before. I did have an idea of doing it, but at that time I have a 9-to-5 job and I have so many skills to not doing it because building a YouTube channel is not that easy. It requires lots of work, a consistent work, and you have to keep trying, keep improving yourself every day. But thanks to the supporting of my partner, I'm still working and trying on it. Making video in English basically is way harder in my native language. In fact, in the beginning, I was trying to do it in Vietnamese, but the fact that the communities of Vietnamese people who like doing DIY things or sewing is really small. So I decided to try it in English. It's a challenge for me as my English isn't that good. I got a lot of comments about my bad English and how horrible my accent is. Honestly, it was hurt. I got upset every single time I read a comment like that. But I didn't blame the person who wrote that comment. I just got angry at myself that I should have tried to learn English harder. But thanks to their comments, I started trying to improve my English. And you don't know how happy I am when I see you guys say that your English is getting better. I'm so just, it's kind of like when you were trying to do something and other people like, see that, they noted that. It's just a great feeling. Yes, I have been thinking about doing it. If you noted that in the beginning of my sewing journeys on YouTube, I drew straight on the fabric instead of using the pattern. But recently, I started making pattern before sewing. Because during the time learning sewing myself, I realized that having a pattern will make your sewing easier and faster, and your clothes will turn out better. Besides that, you also can use your pattern over and over again. But even if I'm selling my pattern, I'm still sharing with you guys how I make my own pattern and sew my clothes. I just choose a few designs that I really love to make the patterns because I want to give to you guys the easier and faster way to make clothes and make sure your clothes will turn out pretty. Because in the end, the reason we all come to sewing that we want to make our own clothes, right? No, I'm not a professional designer or work at sewing. I haven't studied in design or learned sewing in the proper way. I also never worked in fashion industry before. I learned sewing all by myself through internet. I started sewing when I was a kid and I hand sew at that time. The reason I got into sewing at that time because I want to make the clothes for my baby doll. When I was a bit older, I started making something for me. And I remember my first sewing project at that time was a cross shoulder bag in denim. The reason why I make that is because that bag is really famous at that time. It's kind of the trend. All of my friends have it, and I really want to have one. But it's a little expensive to get at that time, and of course my parents wasn't that wealthy to give me one just for that, and that's why I decided to make one for myself. I used one of my old jeans to turn into the bag, and it turned out so good that I remember some of my friends were asking me to make one for them because they thought I bought it from a shop, not making it myself. However, I didn't do a lot of sewing at that time. It was just a hobby. I just sew when it's come to some kind of demand, when I want something that I couldn't get. Until I think 4 years ago when I decided to buy my first sewing machine, and I'm still using it until now. It's one of my favorite ones. But of course, as a hobby, I didn't sew that often. I think I just made a few projects and it didn't turn out that good, so I stopped. I think I just started sewing more often since I created my YouTube channel, but I don't sew every day. Usually I spend maybe 2 or 3 days per week for sewing and the rest of my week for other work. Yes, I do, because the purpose I make them is to wear. However, because I have so many projects I make before, so I couldn't wear them all the time. I have some of my favorites that I wear pretty often, and other ones I wear them occasionally. This is a hard question because I have more than one favorite. Basically, this dress is one of my favorite. I wear this like every week, I think. It depends on how complicated of the dress. Some of them just takes me maybe 2 or 3 hours to finish, but the other maybe takes 2 or 3 days or even a week. I usually try to have no trial for my DIY because I don't want to weigh the clothes or the fabric I use for it. especially when it comes to the transformation DIY. However, I do have some video that I have to make 1 or 2 trial before going to the final result. To avoid having so many trials, I usually spend a lot of time on measuring and constructing the patterns before actually going to show it. I like to work with cotton and linen fabric, just simply they quite an easy fabric to work with compared to other fabric like silk or chiffon or satin fabric. Yes, I got them quite often when I started sewing. Most of them come from my mistake in measuring. A few of them come from the difference between the design in my head and the one in reality. The way I deal with this problem is facing them because I am kind of the person who prefer to find a solution than look at the damage of the problem. That's why if my DIY didn't fix me, I will look at it to see the reason why it's happened and how I can fix it. And if my DIY didn't come out at the way I wanted, that means my design will have a problem, so I will find another design that suits it better and try it out. And by doing this way, in some way I improve my sewing skill and also improve my designing skill. Even in the way I even didn't notice, but it's worked. Honestly, I worked through a lot of leftover fabric in the past after finishing my project. I'm not kind of like a friendly environment lover, and I'm not trying to hide it just to become like, have a better look in your eyes, because I know no one is perfect, I'm not perfect. But recently, I started keeping my leftover fabric just because they are so pretty that I don't want to throw them away. And I usually use the leftover fabric to make some kind of like small thing like a matching scrunchie with my clothes, a draping fabric. I usually drap the gift by the fabric instead of using the draping paper. I make some kind of like shoe bags for my shoe to bring it out when I go for my dancing or some grocery shopping. If the leftover fabric are a little bigger, so I can make some kind of like a crop top or a mini skirt. I don't know, maybe just me, I hate the feeling when I leave myself with unfinished project. That's why whenever one of the project didn't turn out nicely or the way I wanted, I would try my best to fix it. And even if I couldn't fix it, I would try other way to turn it into something that is useful instead of just kind of like giving up or just leave it there. A lot of you guys ask me these questions, and honestly I don't have a book or a particular website that I always use or usually use to learn sewing. When it comes to learning sewing, I refer to get the information from so many different sources. Then I find the comments among them and gather all the information together. That's the way I learn. Yes, you can. I learned sewing myself without attending to any courses before. But everything has two phases. If you have chance to get a sewing card, you will get the writing faster than learning yourself. But if you can't do it, you still can learn sewing by yourself from home. Starting with getting to know your sewing machine first, because at least you need to know how to use it before making any clothes. Then pick a simple project and find a tutorial for this on internet to follow along. And to me, YouTube is the best source to find a tutorial in sewing. A lot of talented sewists and fashion designer on YouTube, and I'm sure you can find one for you to follow. And even if that tutorial isn't that perfect, I'm sure you will understand how to make the project that you pick. And the last thing is actually trying to make that project yourself. Yes, a lot of sewing techniques that I haven't tried yet and I really want to try them out in the future. However, the technique I want to try usually come from the design that I want to make, not just the technique itself. This is the question you guys ask me the most, so I will try to answer it in the most detailed way that I could. Okay, so I learned making patterns when I tried to learn sewing. As I shared with you guys before, in the beginning when I just started sewing, I drew straight on the fabric instead of using the pattern. But by the time of learning sewing, I realized that having a pattern basically is really useful. That's why I started trying to make the patterns before sewing. So when it's come to a project, usually I will look at the design overall and then I imagine how many pieces that will come together to make that design. Like if it's a dress, so it will have like a front borders, the back borders, the bottom with the front and the back bottom, and then the sleeve. Sometimes it's gonna have like the waistband or something like that, or a zipper. So I divide that design into so many small pieces, and then when I divide it into so many small pieces, I will go to work at each single piece. So when it's come to a small single piece, I will look at them and I will try to get the measurement for them. So let's see example like for a front bodice. So the front border is the half of your top body. So that means it's hard to cover your whole top body, which is your bust side is the most important thing. And after that, it's gonna go to your waist side, something like that. So I will try to get on the measurement for that piece. And after that, I will gather all of them together to finish the patterns. In the beginning, all of my measurement basically is based on my body, how I measure my body, and it's quite estimated. But by the time when I learned sewing, I found out that they have a formulas, and that formulas basically based on the structure of our body. I'm sure that you will get that formulas right away if you learn fashion designing or you learn sewing in a proper way. But because I didn't do that, so it took me time and a lot of failed projects to get that. But anyway, I got it right. I think as a beginner, you will want to know how to make a clothes for yourself as soon as possible, because it's the reason you get into sewing. You want to make your own clothes. However, the eager of jumping right away into the advanced level or the complicated project will likely get you feeling demotivated because they usually come out badly or you even couldn't wear it. The reason why I say that because I did that. My first sewing project after I got my sewing machine was a quite complicated crop top. I spent like 4 hours until 4 a.m. in the morning just trying to finish that project, and I even couldn't wear it. After that, I didn't sew for kind of like a year or so. So that's why if you're beginners, my advice for you guys that trying to get to you with your sewing machine by making some kind of like easy and simple project first. Even if you want to try to make your own clothes, let's try with some simple one like a sleepwear, something that you will be success easily or easily achieved it. Because when your first project turn out nicely or you can wear it out, it will give you a huge motivation to keep trying and making other things, and just keep doing like that. You will get better and better in sewing. So I get my inspirations mostly from Instagram. So I follow a few like clothing brand or influencers that they have a similar style with me, or I really like their style. However, sometimes the inspirations come from the shop that I walk by, or the clothes that a stranger wear on the street. I don't always have inspiration from my project. Inspiration is kind of like a great feeling when you get a new idea, and thinking we can't get that feeling all the time. Sometimes like I get a lot of idea in one day, but other time I even couldn't get one after a week. And thing is, having an idea is just a first step of having a new project, because when it comes to the idea, it's also come with so many different designs. So after having an idea, I have to kind of like select the design that I want to go with, and then keep making with like the choice of fabric I want to go with that design, and then the next one will be making the patterns before actually going to sewing. One thing I learned about creating that you can push yourself to create and you can get the idea whenever you want. It's kind of like the way your brain works. You can add it to work when it's tired or it's full of bad energy. So the way I did that, I stopped trying to get the new idea when I couldn't get it, and I turned to do something else that could refresh my mind, make me feel more relaxing. So I usually come to having a fruit. I love having fruit. Then I just watching some kind of like my favorite TV show. They are doing some kind of my other hobby like dancing. Even sometimes just kind of like moving my body in the weird way that what my partner say. But I don't know, doing this kind of thing, it's kind of like refresh my mind. Then I come back and just suddenly, maybe with the good energy, the good attitude will bring you a better idea. I know you're feeling I am kind of that person. I always have like too much thing I want to do at the same time. Then the fact that I just one single person, I can't do everything in a short time myself, and that's why sometimes I do feel kind of like tired or exhausted of trying to do too much. So the solution for me that I put things in priority list. So with all the idea I got, I usually write them down, and then I put them in the sections of the priority. Which one I'm gonna do first, which one I'm gonna do after. So every day when I wake up, I will know today what I'm gonna do, and I just kind of like focus on doing it. And of course, things never come according to your plan. Always things happens. So sometimes I'm under my schedule or in a late timing for my project, and it's kind of like a pressure for me. Usually at that time I started feeling kind of like overload or want to throw everything away. So the solution that I usually come with that I basically stop. It's not like not doing it anymore, but I stop myself here, just because when I was trying with that emotion feeling, basically they didn't turn out that well, and it's gonna lead me even to the worst feeling than before. So I just kind of like walk out doing other things to refresh myself or refresh my mind and get rid of on the negative feeling or emotional feeling I have, and then I come back to it, and I don't know, because I put all of my negative feeling away. So when I come back, I feel better. So I look at the current situations and I try to find a way to fix it, and it's always turned better. I think like firstly that you know who you are and what you want to do, because we usually lose the motivation when things didn't come to the way you wanted, or just suddenly you feel that you are not good enough, you are not as good as other people. So that's why knowing yourself and who you are and what you want to do, what you're good at, and just keep doing it and keep going back to it is kind of like the key thing to keep you doing on what you want to do. Secondly, that talk to other people who you feel so comfortable to talk with, and who also have a positive kind of like thinking, because this kind of person always give you a really good feeling or really good energy. And with that kind of feeling and energy, it will give you motivation or even the creative feeling after that. And it's my Q&A videos. I hope you guys know a little more about me and my sewing journeys. And I also hope that you guys will get some inspirations on keep going with your sewing journeys. Because just like you guys, I am just a normal girl who tried to make clothes for herself without any sewing background. And I did that. I can do it, so you guys can do it too. So let's keep sewing and see you next week.